Good afternoon from London. With wind generators only generating 1/3 of the time and solar panels only producing power 1/5 of the time, major electricity grid storage is needed for the global energy transition to succeed. Welcome to this global tour of electricity storage, where we cover both pumped and grid battery storage and delve into the need and issues affecting their development. We do not cover batteries of the world's electric vehicle fleet, as EV batteries currently do not contribute to the grid as storage in any part of the world in any meaningful way. And on our tour, we will travel to 26 electricity storage sites in countries leading on the storage front: the United States, Europe, China, Japan, India, Australia, and Africa. We don't travel to South America, as the electricity storage requirements are quite different given their reliance on hydropower. And on our tour, we will seek to answer 4 questions. Firstly, is grid storage being installed at an adequate rate to cover the increasing penetration of renewables in the power systems of countries? Secondly, is grid storage being installed at an adequate rate to cover the electrification of the whole national energy system? Thirdly, is the world relying on additional pump storage or additional battery capacity? And lastly, is hydrogen production and storage emerging as an alternative storage?
As we start our tour, let's look at electricity storage globally by the numbers, which as a former electricity system planner and operator resonates with me. 179 gigawatts is the installed pump storage globally, which according to the International Hydropower Association has storage capacity of 9,000 gigawatt hours. However, in checking the reported figures, dividing 9,000 gigawatt hours by 179 gigawatts yields 50 hours of storage per 1,000 megawatts of generating capacity. This seems much higher than actual individual pump storage plants' hours of duration, ranging in the 20 hours plus or minus. So we suspect some considerable hydro reservoir storage is included in the total. On the installed grid battery storage front, utility scale and behind the meter is 150 gigawatts with a capacity of 300 gigawatt hours. That number is rising very rapidly given the dramatic reduction in the cost of lithium and vanadium batteries. So grid battery storage will soon overtake pump storage in installed pure capacity, but for energy storage capacity, batteries is still vastly smaller than pump storage. Note that the best data on storage that we have is from the International Hydro Association for Pump Storage, the EIA for battery, and WoodMac for battery storage. So with those numbers, our first visit on our global storage tour is to the US, where I am currently located in sunny Texas, one of the states with lots of rooftop solar and grid solar and associated grid storage, and where Texas, together with California, constitute 94% of the installed storage capacity in the US. The US is a country with 260 plus gigawatt hours of renewable storage and wind capacity, generating 15% of electricity supplies, which creates rising needs for storage. In commenting on the plus, it shows that the number is increasing daily. So in the headlines, we see this need to integrate increasing penetration of renewables in aspiration to expand pump storage in the form of supportive government funding. And this government funding support is a theme that we will see for many countries in this tour as a prerequisite for pump storage development, given the lengthy development timeframes and the high cost. We see battery storage that is expanding quickly and eclipsing the existing pump storage on the US grid. But for batteries, not without controversy in recent battery facility fires, fueling concerns. We also see the prospect of new technologies for batteries, sodium ion, and for pump storage to counteract some of the permitting challenges that have thwarted new additions in proposed locations, such as in coal mines and subsea. But we also don't see much on compressed air, where we will visit as a storage site. So Andy, let's visit the storage landscape in the US.
Here below us we see the largest pump storage in blue and battery storage in green plants in the United States. The United States has just over 22 gigawatts of pump storage and over 17 gigawatts of grid storage, rapidly growing, as well as behind the meter capacity that in total now exceed the pump storage, as Mary noted. Pump storage wise, the US has the second largest pump storage capacity in the world with 43 plants, with a storage capacity of 553 gigawatt hours. And the power system in the US is, however, so large that even 22 gigawatts of pump storage plays a very small role in its power system, with a maximum demand of 500 gigawatts. The pump storage facilities, for the most part, were built before the 1990s, and there are currently no large pump storage systems under construction in the United States. A total of 60 pump storage projects across 21 states, with a total proposed capacity of a further 55 gigawatts, had received or applied for preliminary permits from FERC in the country. However, many will not go ahead given the stringent requirements for technical and economic viability, the fact that numerous projects face significant opposition on environmental grounds, and the fact that various developers are vying for projects in the same markets. Battery storage is rising at 10 gigawatts per year in the US, especially, as Mary noted, in California and Texas, with very high solar and wind reliance. Let's visit 4 storage places: Bath County Pump Storage in Virginia, Moss Landing Battery Storage in California, Manatee Battery Storage in Florida, and the McIntosh Compressed Air Storage in Alabama. Here below us from space we see the Bath County Pump Storage Plant in Virginia, commissioned in 1985. With an installed capacity of 3,000 megawatts and effective storage capacity of 24 gigawatt hours, it's the largest in the US. And Mary, this is bigger than Brookfield's Bear Swamp pump storage that you well know from your time there. And located in a valley that was specifically chosen for its unique geology, the valley has 2 natural reservoirs that are separated by an elevation of 380 meters. It can start up and generate electricity in as little as 2 minutes. Here in California below us we see the largest battery storage facility in the world, Moss Landing Energy Storage. We can see a natural gas power station of 1,000 megawatts combined cycle on the bottom right, owned by Vistra. Phase 1 battery storage of 300 megawatts and 1,200 megawatt hours. And phase 2, another 100 megawatts, 400 megawatt hours, which began operation into 2020. It is lithium-ion technology. And the sad news, as Mary previewed in the headlines, is that Moss Landing burned down in a fire in January. And it's indicative of the risk of lithium batteries, including being very difficult to contain as a fire once started. Here in Florida, we visit the largest battery energy storage system to have been paired with solar PV to date by Florida Power and Light. Construction of the Manatee Energy Storage Center was completed in just 10 months, demonstrating the short construction times for battery storage. And we can see the natural gas power plant. We can see the 75 megawatt Manatee solar PV plant. And we can see the 409 megawatt, 900 megawatt hours battery electricity storage system, which is co-located, allowing solar energy generated during sunny daylight hours to be stored for several hours to be used in evenings or in cloudy hours of the day. Below us we see the McIntosh compressed air storage plant in Alabama, our first visit to compressed air storage. The plant uses off-peak electricity to pump air into a salt cavern located underground, which provides compressed air storage. And then during peak periods, the McIntosh power plant uses the compressed air combined with natural gas to generate and supply power. It is the largest compressed air storage in the world with a capacity of 110 megawatts, 2.9 gigawatt hours of storage, albeit gas assisted.
Before we leave the US, let's take a side visit to look at US electricity generation by source for the week of January 25th to February 1st, 2025. Here we can see how natural gas remains the largest source at 200 gigawatt hours and serves as the load following to deal with the intermittency of sun and wind. This is followed by nuclear at 100 gigawatt hours running flat as base load. Coal is also at 100 gigawatts doing some load following, and then wind varying between 90 gigawatts and 40 gigawatts due to its intermittency. The daily solar cycle contributes 60 gigawatt hours at peak and hydro of 30 gigawatts. So both pump storage and battery storage here are playing a very insignificant role, with natural gas serving to follow the load.
So, Mary, when we tour the United States in 2030, we can expect to see four things: no new pump storage hydro commissioned, massive growth in battery storage, insignificant green hydrogen production and storage still as it is today, and that gas turbines will continue to keep the power system integrated, including providing for most of the electricity demand growth for data centers.
It is timely and instructive to do a side visit to the role of electricity storage in power systems, where it is located in front of the meter at generation or in transmission, or at the distribution level behind the meter. Storage has four roles: balance supply and demand variations on an hourly, daily, weekly, or seasonal basis, support system frequency and voltage on an hourly and daily basis, or allow owners to do price arbitrage between low and high price periods across all durations, and finally to help with congestion relief on transmission for peaks. Let's look at electricity storage technologies and link to their use in the electricity system. So starting with four mechanical electricity storage technologies, today we will visit pumped hydro, compressed air, and gravity systems, which currently are designed and deployed to provide longer duration storage needed for interday and even seasonal storage. There are 6 chemical electricity storage technologies. Today, we are visiting lithium-ion, sodium, and flow battery systems, typically designed and deployed to provide short duration interday and within the hour storage. There is also electrical, but it is really only suitable for grid support and not in meaningful amounts of storage. So let's see more examples of these technologies and how they serve regional systems in our visit to Europe. So we crossed the Atlantic to arrive in Europe, where intermittent renewable capacity is 560 gigawatts and generates 18% of electricity, which in penetration is creating real system stress in the need for accelerated storage solutions. And the news headlines bear this out in the need and focus for accelerating storage in Europe, of emerging stronger regulatory support for pump storage hydro and underlying funding support resulting in regional momentum, such as ambitious pump storage hydro plans in regions like Scotland. Rapid expansion of grid-scale batteries and home batteries paired with solar, with associated funding support for further penetration and innovation. A painful and unsuccessful attempt to establish Northvolt as a European battery manufacturer, as well as Tesla extending its reach to now also manufacture batteries in Germany amid concerns about battery supply chain reliance, including on forced labor in non-European regions. Andy, let's tour storage in Europe.
Below us we see the major European grid storage facilities. Europe has 54 gigawatts, equivalent to about 2,000 gigawatt hours of pump storage, and we can see the major pump storage plants in blue. Europe also has 7 gigawatts of power grid storage, and we see in green the names of the largest battery storage plants. Let's visit 3 storage facilities: Cortes La Muela pump storage in Spain, Pillswood battery storage in the UK, and the Nante Drance pump storage facility in Switzerland. Spain has wonderful conditions for sun and wind, and its renewable capacity is rising rapidly. It needs storage. And part of its answer is Corles La Muela, the largest pump storage plant in Europe with a capacity of 1,700 megawatts, equivalent to 24 gigawatt hours or 17 hours of storage. And below us we can see the upper reservoir and the 500-meter drop to the pump station. The UK and Europe's biggest battery energy storage system by megawatt hours at least is located in East Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. And here we see Pillswood, which has a capacity to store 196 megawatt hours. And the site is located adjacent to the world's largest offshore wind farm, Dogger Bank. Dogger Bank will have a capacity of 3,600 megawatts. Compared to this, Pillswood plays absolutely no role in addressing the intermittency of wind, and it mainly helps with the frequency and system stability support with very short duration storage. Pump storage is still being built in Europe, and below us we see the largest pump storage plant in Switzerland, Nante Drance, located in the Swiss Alps. It has a capacity of 900 megawatts, storage of 20 gigawatt hours, which is equivalent to a duration of 22 hours of storage. Excellent. After our visit to Pillswood in the United Kingdom just now, let's do a side visit to see how the UK copes with seasonality of solar and the intermittency of wind. And on screen we look at the demand for and the supply of electricity for the 365 days of 2024. We see in yellow solar, mainly generating when the sun is shining in the summer. We see the wind in turquoise, which blows all year round but is highly intermittent, as we can see in the picture in the top left. We see gas in orange that keeps the system together with the flex to compensate for the seasonality and the daily cycle of solar and the intermittency of wind. And gas generates as much as 600 gigawatt hours per day, often for several consecutive days. Storage, including pump and battery, currently plays a completely insignificant role in balancing renewables and will take decades to install enough storage to replace that role of gas. So Mary, when we tour European grid storage in 2030, I expect us to see limited new pump storage will have been built in Scotland and Spain, but that will be small compared to the additional solar and wind capacity already added and still to be added in Europe. Significant growth in battery storage, specifically in the UK, Germany, Italy, Ireland, Spain and Greece. Again, small compared to the additional solar and wind capacity. Still insignificant green hydrogen production and storage. And lastly, gas-fired power generation will still keep the power system together based on imported gas.
From Europe and the UK, we travel east to China, where 750 gigawatts of intermittent renewable capacity supplies 15% of electricity. And this penetration, as well as China's goal to position itself as a world electrostate, are motivating its storage leadership. Recent headlines in China tell this story of Chinese pride and expansion of pump storage, with multiple facilities being developed and commissioned, of rapid expansion of battery storage, and together with bringing on pump storage, contributing to a surge in storage capacity and storage bids. With the rapid expansion of Chinese storage technologies and an associated iron grip of the Chinese supply chain, with exposure for US and Europe to wriggle out of this grip in resetting global trade. Andy, let's see on the ground China, including some of the new battery technologies that China is leading with.
Below us we can see the large pump storage and battery plants of China. China with 36 gigawatts of pump storage at 38 large pump storage stations and that has a storage capacity of 1,000 gigawatt hours. And China is by far the largest contributor to global growth in pump storage, with 36 gigawatts under construction. It targets 120 gigawatts by 2030. On the battery front, China is a world leader domestically, with all batteries installed in China are made in China, and in seeking to dominate battery technologies and supply chains globally. China has 27 gigawatts of battery storage, almost as large as pump storage. Let's visit Fengning pump storage, the Ushi flow battery, the sodium ion battery in Changyang, and the Energy Vault in Shanghai. The Fengning pump storage station in Hubei province is the largest pump storage station in the world, with an installed capacity of 3,600 megawatts and storage of 40 gigawatt hours, providing 11 hours of storage duration. The pump storage station is located underground in a series of caverns excavated in the mountains, which helps to protect it from earthquakes and other natural disasters. China is not only a major player in lithium-ion batteries, but also actively working to develop other competing battery technology. And we travel to the west of China to see history being made in battery storage technology in the city of Ushi, where Ronke Power has just commissioned a 175 megawatt, 700 megawatt hour vanadium redox flow battery in China. It is its second such battery. And redox flow batteries have two major advantages over their lithium-ion counterparts. They do not lose any capacity even after thousands of charge and discharge cycles, and secondly, they are non-flammable. And below us, we see the largest vanadium flow battery in the world. The world's largest sodium-ion battery is located in Xiangyang in Hubei province in China, and it's part of the Datang Hubei sodium-ion new energy storage power station. It's the first phase of a larger project that will eventually reach 100 megawatts, 200 megawatt hours. And the benefits of sodium-ion batteries is that they are cheaper than lithium-ion batteries, safer than lithium-ion batteries, and can operate at much lower temperatures than lithium-ion batteries. And this battery is clearly part of China's effort to diversify away from lithium. Our last visit in China is to Shanghai, where Energy Vault's solid gravity system uses huge, heavy blocks made of concrete and composite material and lifts them up in the air with a mechanical crane. And the crane is powered by excess energy from the grid. And that facility outside Shanghai has a capacity of 100 megawatt hours, and it can continuously discharge 25 megawatts for up to 4 hours. And it's been built next to a wind farm and a national grid interconnection site. And such a gravity-based storage has just been ordered from Energy Vault by its first Australian customer. In looking forward to our tour in 2030, Mary, the outlook for storage in China is that 30 gigawatts of pump storage will have been added, as much or more than the rest of the world together. That very significant battery storage will have been added, including many new battery storage technologies. That China will still have insignificant green hydrogen production and storage, and that coal-fired power generation and pump storage will continue to do the overall system integration.
We crossed the East China Sea and the Sea of Japan to tour storage in the land of the rising sun. Japan has 112 gigawatts of solar and wind capacity, mostly solar, which supplies 10% of Japanese electricity. The news headlines in Japan speak to continued expansion of pump storage in Japan on the ground in build-out and supported by policy, the installation of battery electricity storage, and Japanese ambitions to be a player in the manufacturing batteries with sponsoring private sector funds. So Andy, let's tour Japan and its storage landscape.
Mary, Japan, yes, has just released its 7th Strategic Energy Plan in draft. And that targets 40 to 50% of power generation from renewables by 2040, aiming for nuclear power to supply 20% of electricity by 2040, and planning to decrease thermal power reliance to 30 to 40% by 2040. And that increase in renewables is going to require a very significant increase in electricity grid storage. Below us we see Japan's major pump storage in blue and its battery storage plants in green. The installed pump storage capacity is 27 gigawatts and the battery storage still only about 1 gigawatts. Let's visit the Okutataragi pump storage station and the Toyotomi battery storage up in Hokkaido. Japan is very mountainous, which provides great locations for pump storage, and below us we see the Okutataragi pump storage plant, the largest in Japan, and it's been in operation since the mid-1970s. It has 1,932 megawatts with 15 gigawatts hours of storage. That means that it can operate for 8 hours continuously. Our second visit in Japan is to the northernmost island of Hokkaido, a very windy place. And below us we can see the battery packs of the Toyotomi battery storage system with a capacity of 240 megawatts, a storage capacity of 720 megawatt hours, which is 3 hours of storage. It's the largest in Japan, and this facility supports the construction of wind farms and their integration into the electricity transmission network in northern Hokkaido. So Mary, on our tour in 2030, I expect us to see that Japan will have completed the Kanaga pump storage plant and will build even more pump storage. We will see significant growth in Japanese-made battery storage, still insignificant green hydrogen production and storage, and if offshore wind grows, then Japan will be compelled to use the significant gas-fired capacity to ensure power system stability.
Now we visit India, which has 110 gigawatts of intermittent renewable supply for 10% of its electricity, with growing aspirations and thrust for increasing the penetration of solar and wind and associated storage. The headlines speak to India's storage landscape of urgently needing to build more new pump storage with efforts to fast-track projects. Its position of being far behind in battery storage, both behind other countries with similar-sized electricity systems and behind the expansion of its renewable capacity, motivating scale-up in tenders. Similarly, with its nuclear, solar, and wind, India seeks to expand its industry in the manufacture of batteries to be installed in the country, with ventures such as with LG. Andy, let's tour India and see its storage thrusts.
Below us we see India's pumped and battery storage plants. The location of 5 gigawatts of pump storage is shown in blue and the less than 1 gigawatts of battery storage in green. Let's visit Sarovar pump storage and the Rajnandgaon battery storage to see how India is progressing. In a country where power generation is dominated by coal-fired power plants, pump storage and hydro is needed to provide the flexibility in the plans to introduce intermittent renewables. And below us we see India's largest pump storage in operation, Sardar Sarovar, which has been in operation since 2005. The Sardar Sarovar Dam is a concrete gravity dam built on the Narmada River in the state of Gujarat, and the dam was constructed to provide water and electricity to 4 Indian states. And the dam's main power plant houses 6 200-megawatt Francis pump turbines to generate hydroelectricity, but also a pump storage capability from 5 50-megawatt Kaplan turbine generators. So in total, the installed capacity of the power facilities is 1,450 megawatts. A growing feature of Indian electricity storage is to install it and co-locate it with solar, with the associated benefit of increasing the utilization of transmission. Tata Power Solar Systems has commissioned India's largest battery electricity storage at Rajnandgaon in the Indian state of Chhattisgarh, and we see that below us. And the project includes a 100 megawatt PV plant that we can see in the background, coupled with a 40 megawatt, 120 megawatt hour utility scale battery storage. That equates to 3 hours of storage. And looking forward in the context of India's electricity system, India will not be able to build enough pump storage to address the massive growth in intermittent renewables, and more batteries will be installed with solar. But given that India does not have significant gas-fired power and has to import LNG, coal and hydro will need to do the load following to address the intermittency of wind and solar for quite a while. So Mary, when we return to India for our tour in 2030, I expect us to see that the Terry pump storage plant in the north of the country will have been completed, that more than 10 gigawatt hours of batteries will have been commissioned, many co-located with solar installations, that insignificant green hydrogen production and storage will be in place, and that coal and hydro plants will still have to compensate for the intermittency of renewables.
From India, we travel south to Australia, and we see a system with intermittent renewable capacity of 44 gigawatts, supplying 28% of electricity, the highest penetration of all places we will visit today, and creating an urgent imperative for storage. As a testament to this storage momentum in Australia, I've been asked to become involved with a battery startup to be funded by Australian investors. Accordingly, the news headlines speak to this focus on storage and related installation thrusts, along with associated challenges, including priorities that Australia states now place on pump storage, but with setbacks in the expansion of pump storage in cancellations, costs, and schedule. The battery deployment installation boom that is taking place in Australia, and the Australian government's ambition to have battery manufacturing as an industry in Australia. So Andy, let's touch down in Australia to see some of the battery boom and the pump storage project bus.
Below us we see Australia's pumped and battery storage. And you can see that 2.5 gigawatts equivalent to 70 gigawatt hours of storage, of pump storage in blue, and 2 gigawatts of battery storage in green. And a very large number of battery storage projects are currently in operation, under construction, and announced, with installed battery storage capacity rising at about 2 gigawatts per year. Let's visit 3 Australian facilities: Snowy, Hornsdale Power Reserve Battery, and the Victoria Peak Battery. The Snowy Mountain Scheme, or Snowy Scheme, is a hydroelectricity and irrigation complex in southeast Australia. And the Commonwealth Government of Australia is the sole shareholder of Snowy. And the scheme comprises 16 major dams, 9 power stations, 2 pumping stations, and 225 kilometers of tunnels, pipelines, and aqueducts that were already constructed between 1949 and 1974. Snowy 2 is a pump storage expansion of 2,200 megawatts of capacity and 160 hours of storage. However, Snowy 2 has been plagued by the project budget, which has ballooned from an initial estimate of 2 billion to 12 billion. It has faced numerous technical difficulties, including a stalled tunnel boring machine and issues with toxic gas emissions. It requires extensive tunneling and excavation, which has raised environmental concerns, and the project was initially expected to produce its first power by 2024. That date has now been pushed back to at least 2028 due to the various issues encountered. And I have to add that the storage number of 350 gigawatt hours is so large that it requires independent verification. Here we visit the Hornsdale Power Reserve in South Australia next to the Hornsdale Wind Farm. It is probably the most famous battery storage in the world, built by Tesla following the 100-day bet between the Premier and Elon Musk. And we can see the two batteries of a total 150 megawatts and 200 megawatt hours of storage capacity on the left, and the substation on the right. And the facility mainly provides stability to the grid in the form of grid services to prevent load shedding and blackouts, and limited load management to store electricity when prices are low and sell it when demand is high. The Victoria Big Battery is a grid-connected battery electricity storage facility in Victoria. The battery provides 450 megawatt hours of storage and can discharge at a rate of 300 megawatts, which means that it has 1.5 hours of storage. It is the largest lithium-ion battery in Australia. It is owned and operated by French renewable energy producer Nuon. Nuon was awarded a contract by the Australian Energy Market Operator to reserve 80% of its capacity during the summer months to provide 250 megawatts of System Integrity Protection Scheme services, not general storage to deal with intermittency. The remaining 50 megawatts of the battery can be commercially deployed in the market by the operator. And outside the summer period, the battery can be operated commercially. And I think there's an important point to be made about storage in Australia, and that is to avoid power system blackouts and instability in the short term to medium term. Australia needs large storage more than any other country if it's to avoid blackouts in 2030, given the rapid growth in solar and wind, the decommissioning of coal, no new nuclear, no power imports, and the country being as divided about additional gas-fired power generation as it is. So Mary, when we return in 2030, I expect us to see that the Snowy Pump Storage scheme may have been commissioned, a 5 to 10-fold increase in battery storage, that there will still be insignificant green hydrogen production and storage in Australia, and that Australia will face significant system stability challenges in its power system.
Now we travel to Africa with 21 gigawatts of intermittent renewables supplying 6% of the electricity, and plans to add more storage with associated plans to add to the renewable supply. Accordingly, the headlines speak to plans to build more pump storage in South Africa, Egypt, and Morocco, significant growth in batteries, especially in South Africa, as reflected in installation, bids, and procurement. So Andy, let's tour South Africa's storage landscape.
Below us we see the pump storage and battery storage plants of Africa. There's 3.3 gigawatts of pump storage, mainly in South Africa and Morocco, and 3 gigawatts of battery storage, mainly in South Africa. Let's visit 3 storage plants: Noor in Morocco, Ingula in South Africa, and also Kenhardt Solar in South Africa. Morocco has ambitious renewable energy plans, and Noor Solar Power Station at the town of Kwazazate features neither pump storage nor battery storage, because what we see below us is the world's largest concentrated solar power plant with molten salt storage built in 4 phases. Phase 1 is 160 megawatt with 6 hours of heat storage, parabolic troughs. Phase 2 is 200 megawatts with 7 hours of heat storage, also parabolic troughs. And then there is 150 megawatts phase 3 with 7.5 hours of heat storage, concentrated solar with concentric mirrors. And on the right hand side we see phase 4, which is 72 megawatts of photovoltaic, and in total the storage here is 3,000 megawatt hours, which equates to 6 hours of storage. Norwegian renewable power producer Scatec in 2024 energized one of the world's largest hybrid solar and battery projects in Kenhardt in South Africa. and combining 540 megawatts of solar capacity with 225 megawatts, 1,140 megawatt hours of battery storage capacity, it is formidable. And under a 20-year power purchase agreement with Eskom, it provides 150 megawatts of dispatchable power to the grid every day from 5 to 9:30 in the evening local time. This is ambitious. This is world scale. South Africa has 65 gigawatt hours of pump storage at 4 pump storage stations: Ingula, Drakensberg, Palmit and Steenbras. And below us we see the Ingula pump storage scheme, a pump storage power plant on the escarpment between the Little Drakensberg and straddling KwaZulu-Natal and the Free State provinces. It's operated by Eskom. It has 1,300 megawatts of capacity with 21 gigawatt hours of storage, which equates to 16 hours, and it provides 3 roles in demand fluctuations, in the breakdown of coal-fired power plants, and balancing the intermittency of renewables. So when we tour Africa again in 2030, I expect us to see pump storage in Egypt and Morocco and South Africa in construction, grid battery storage mainly in South Africa, insignificant green hydrogen production and storage or export across the continent, and that hydro and coal and gas will be addressing the intermittency of renewables rather than storage.
In concluding our tour, we have framed our takeaways in 3 dimensions of the energy trilemma: security, reliability, environment, and affordability prices, and looked at the landscape now and the expected landscape within the next decade. Let's look at today and first comment on the security reliability boxes. Well, there is considerable scale up, and notably in a select set of countries, including China, Japan, US, Europe, Australia, and South Africa, there is system reliability and security needs with increasing penetration of intermittent renewables provided by storage. The scale, however, is still insignificant relative to the growing scale of renewables, as we saw when we visited countries like the US and saw the UK's hourly and season system profiles. Going forward, storage has to register on the daily power supply of the countries with massive scale up. This need is creating the imperative for corresponding scale in storage installations, and for both batteries and long duration resources such as pump storage, which today has been stalled in many countries because of environmental issues and the lack of regulatory and funding support. So commenting overall in the environmental boxes, going forward, pump storage is needed, and perhaps in new configurations and locations to convert the current reticence to expand. Equally, there are environmental concerns being raised as lithium and rare earth minerals and materials needed for battery scale come with social and environmental impact, such as of lithium mining, the vulnerability in operation, and the life cycle end-of-life disposal concerns with batteries. Going forward, the search for alternative technologies needs to ramp up. Now, wrapping with the takeaways on the price and affordability boxes, we note that while the cost of installation on a per megawatt basis is declining with the scale of batteries today, the full system cost of the required ramp-up is not yet felt. So looking forward for the next 10 years, the significant cost of scaled storage will significantly impact power prices. So in closing, we return to our opening questions. 1, is grid storage being installed at an adequate rate to cover the increasing penetration of renewables in power systems of countries? The answer clearly is no. Is grid storage being installed at an adequate rate to cover the electrification of the electricity system? Again, the answer is no. 3. Is the world relying on additional pump storage or grid capacity to address the intermittency of renewables? Answer, both, but at an inadequate rate. Finally, 4. Is green hydrogen production and storage emerging? Answer, not in sufficient scale and rate. So, in closing, as is our intent in sharing our insights, we invite you to draw your own conclusions. And we thank you for the interest in this topic of storage in the Global Energy Supply Transition Series. Again, thank you.